Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 2 2016 NFL predictions. Well, this Week 1, as it's coming to an end, has put me in a mixed bag of emotions about my records. As everybody found out from my last video for Week 1, I've decided to add against the spread picks along with my straight up picks. So, I have a mixed bag of emotions because straight up so far this week I am 9-5. That's a pretty decent record. You know, with 2 games left, I can end up going 11-5 straight up. Getting 10 plus wins straight up anytime is a great feeling. But for my first foray against the spread, not very good, no. I ended up going 4-10 against the spread. I still have 2 games. I don't know how well I'll do with those. But definitely not the way I wanted to make my mark on against the spread picking. But it is not going to discourage me. I'm going to continue to do the against the spread picking the rest of the year, and I hope that I can do better, and I expect to do better as the weeks go on. As I tend to, I'll learn more about against the spread, and I'll look at the spreads, and I'll start noticing patterns and trends that'll help my against the spread picking. Time for my picks on each game. And again, I will say against the spread first, and then the straight up pick afterward. All right, here we go. So this Thursday, when the 0-1 New York Jets go to the 0-1 Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Bills are 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the New York Jets plus 2.5, along with straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 1-0 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 1-0 or 0-1 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Cincinnati plus 3.5 and Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, when the 0-1 Tennessee Titans go to the 1-0 Detroit Lions, the Detroit Lions are 5.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans plus 5.5 along with Detroit, but I'm going to take Detroit straight up. The next game, when the 1-0 Baltimore Ravens go to the 0-1 Cleveland Browns, Baltimore is a 6-point favorite. I'm going to take Baltimore minus 6 along with straight up. The next game, the 0-1 Dallas Cowboys will go to the 1-0 or 0-1 Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins are 3.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Dallas plus 3.5, but Washington straight up. The next game, when the 0-1 New Orleans Saints go to the 1-0 New York Giants, the New York Giants are 4.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints plus 4.5, but the New York Giants straight up. The next game, when the next game is San Francisco at Carolina. I have not found a spread for this game, so I'm going to call it a pick'em and take Carolina both ways against the spread and pick and straight up. Miami at New England. New England is a 4.5-point favorite. I'm going to tell you to take New England minus 4.5 along with straight up. The next game, when the 1-0 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 1-0 Houston Texans, Kansas City is a 2-point favorite. I'm going to take Kansas City minus 2 and straight up. And then the 4 o'clock games, next game, when the 1-0 Seattle Seahawks go to the 0-1 Los Angeles Rams. Seattle is a 3.5-point favorite. I'm going to tell you to take LA plus 3.5, but Seattle straight up. And then the next game, when the 1-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 0-1 Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals are 7-point favorites. I'm going to tell you to take Tampa Bay plus 7, but Arizona straight up. The next game, when the 0-1 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 0-1 San Diego Chargers, the San Diego Chargers are 3-point favorites. I'm going to take Jacksonville plus 3, along with straight up. And then the next game, when you have the 0-1 Atlanta Falcons going to the 1-0 Oakland Raiders, the Oakland Raiders are 4.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Oakland minus 4.5, along with straight up. And then for the last 4 o'clock game, when the 0-1 Indianapolis Colts go to the 1-0 Denver Broncos, the Denver Broncos are 6-point favorites. I'm going to take Indianapolis plus 6 and Denver straight up. And then for the Sunday night game, the 1-0 Green Bay Packers go to the 1-0 Minnesota Vikings at the brand new U.S. Bank Stadium. The Green Bay Packers are 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Green Bay minus 2.5 and straight up. And then in the Monday night game, the 1-0 Philadelphia Eagles go to the 0-1 Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are 3-point favorites. I'm going to take Philadelphia plus 3 and Philadelphia straight up. And again, these picks are being made on a Monday, so I know these lines will change, but I'm going to stick to Monday lines because I will be doing my videos on Mondays. And a quick little sidebar for that. What are your guys' thoughts on me doing videos on Monday? I did Monday videos last year. I heard good feedback for the most part. Do you guys like me doing Monday videos? Or do you guys think I should wait till at least Tuesday to finish my video? Or to do my videos? So guys, let me know in the comment section. I really appreciate it. Alright, time for my thoughts on each game. The Jets and Bills. Both these teams are coming off very tough losses to AFC North teams. The New York Jets are coming off the field goal loss to the Bengals, 23-22. Darrelle Revis did not have a great day. He ended up, I believe, giving up the third most yards he has ever given up as a corner to A.J. Green, who had a monster game. He had 12 receptions for 180 yards and a touchdown. And also, I look at the Jets and say, but their defense overall though had a pretty solid game. The Jets defense got 7 sacks on Andy Dalton, making that a career high for the head coach Todd Bowles. So that was very impressive. And I just looked at the Jets and said they put up a good fight, and Matt Forte had a spectacular debut for the Jets. He was able to run and catch very effectively, and Eric Decker and Marshall were able to make big plays. But when it came really down to it, when Andy Dalton and the Bengals drove down the field to kick the field goal to take the lead, when he needed Ryan Fitzpatrick the most, he couldn't show up, and he ended up blowing the game for the Jets, who lose for the first time on opening day, I believe, in the last 5 years. And then for the Bills, kind of the same story. You know, Rex Ryan's now 0-4 against the Baltimore Ravens all time. He only put up 7 points, so he put less than 10 points on the board. I thought he would have because of the Bills team. The Bills defense did have its moments. They did get to Joe Flacco a lot in that game. But I tend to say that at the end of the day, our defense was able to just make more bigger plays. And also, they really couldn't run enough big plays. And to me, when I look at this game, even though Buffalo hasn't lost to the Jets at home since 2011, and Ryan Fitzpatrick really does not put up great games against his former team, his career numbers for the 3 games he's played against the Bills, 51.9% completion percentage, 642 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 7 INTs. The biggest reason why I'm taking the Jets to win this game is because of Sammy Watkins' injury. Last year, in Week 17, Sammy Watkins ended up putting 11 receptions for 136 yards on Darrelle Revis. This time around, he's coming in with a bum foot. He is not going to miss any time because it's something that they really cannot fix, or nothing's really broken, so they can't have an operation. To me, without Sammy Watkins, the Bills are just purely running, and guys like Robert Woods and Goodwin and Charles Clay, who's probably now their big receiving threat, just don't provide enough or are going to make that big enough play or be that much of a difference maker for the Jets not to be able to capitalize. Again, I think it can be a competitive game, and if Fitzpatrick shrinks again in Buffalo, it wouldn't surprise me. But knowing what Sammy Watkins is going through with pain, he's not going to be able to provide the same amount of impact that he would if he was fully healthy. And knowing that, this was a nagging thing, he actually thought he re-broke his foot in the game earlier. I just think with the Jets, knowing what they have to go through, they're playing 4 straight playoff teams after this. They're going to be motivated to end this streak in Buffalo, end the streak for themselves, and get redemption for Rex knocking them out of the playoffs. That this Jet team can pull it all together and win this game. I think it's going to be a very, old school AFC East Jets Bills kind of game. A lot of defense, a lot of trash talking, not a lot of points scored. But with Sammy Watkins not being able to be 100% or not being 100%, that's the difference enough for me saying the Jets will win this game because Darrelle Revis won't nearly have as much a hard time or maybe even a challenge to cover Sammy Watkins. So that's why I'm taking the Jets over the Bills. Cincy and Pittsburgh. Cincinnati. Kudos. 3rd straight opening day game victory. And also the 6th time in a row. Andy Dalton has had to go on the road to play, and he's on the road again, this time in Pittsburgh. And when I look at this game, it's hard for me just to go against Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh is going through without Ladarius Green. They don't have Ladarius Green. Marcus Wheaton is not playing tonight. He might not play next week. They don't have Bud Dupree. They don't have Le'Veon Bell. They don't have a lot of these things. But the Bengals yesterday only got 1 sack on the Jets. And the Steelers' offensive line, I believe, is just as good or even better than the Jets' line is, especially with guys like Ramon Foster, David DeCastro, and Marquise Pouncey. Cincinnati's lost 5 of the last 6 meetings against the Steelers. And Mike Tomlin's 10-5 all time against them. So, when you look at this game, Cincinnati may have more talent. Even though, again, the tight ends, Eifert kind of cancels out James. The running games, D'Angelo Williams and Toussaint may be able to make the same effect as Hill and Bernard. And the Bengals may have better corners or more corners available. But I just think it's hard for me to go against Pittsburgh, knowing that they're at home, and knowing that I believe Andy Dalton's only beaten Pittsburgh 2 times in Pittsburgh. And I think he's beaten them more in Cincinnati. I believe that's right. I'm not exactly sure. Somebody could look that up. But just looking at what Pittsburgh has, knowing what kind of motivation they have to beat this Bengal team, because they know that essentially, they cost them probably the AFC Championship game if Antonio Brown doesn't get knocked out by Burfitt, who will not play in the game. I just think, when you look at this game, both teams don't nearly have as much talent because of injuries or suspensions. There's some defensive players that are there that are no longer there that could have helped. And I just think, again, even though Cincinnati may have the motivation, Pittsburgh has the home field advantage. And when you're going up against Mike Tomlin, and Mike Tomlin's beating you that often, and knowing that if Pittsburgh gets a lead or makes a comeback, that feeling is going to be in the Bengals' heads, I think that's going to overcome them, and they're just not going to be able to make a play or succumb to the pressure of, hey, Pittsburgh has the lead, or they were able to make a play to gain the lead, and we won't be able to respond and win the game. It's going to be a great game. It's Bengals-Steelers, 2 hated teams that really don't like each other, 2 high-powered offenses with great receivers, 2 decent running games. But with this one, I'm going to go with the home field. It's going to be close. That's why I'm taking Cincy's points. But I think Pittsburgh with home field advantage, that'll be the difference in the game. So that's why I'm taking Pittsburgh to beat Cincinnati. Detroit over Tennessee. Tennessee did a phenomenal job on defense. Only allowing 39 yards for Adrian Peterson on 11 carries. That's impressive. And also, it was just the aspect of Minnesota. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns. That was on Mariota. You had 2 fumbles. One was returned for a pick 6, and the interception that was returned for a pick 6. So to me, I kind of have to give Tennessee kind of this awkward thing of where they played an overall solid game except for turnovers. And they're going up against the defense in Detroit, where Detroit gave up their most opening day points since 2009. They gave up 41 to New Orleans back in 2009, Stafford's rookie year, his first game. And Tennessee, though, has beaten Detroit the last 4 times they've won. And the last time Detroit won was October 21st, 2001. And I guess just the other thing I like about Detroit in this game is that with Matthew Stafford not having Calvin Johnson, 45% of Detroit's offense is gone, so Matthew Stafford has to rely on more guys. And 6 guys on the Lions yesterday had 4 more receptions. So he has been spreading the ball around to more guys like Golden Tate, Anquan Bolden, Marvin Jones, Theo Riddick, Amir Abdullah, Eric Ebron. And I like that he's spreading the ball around to a lot more guys. To me, I'm taking Detroit in this game just because they have more talent at some of the bigger positions, and I don't know if Mariota, he still seems like, if you get a bit of pressure in his face, he'll make a quick hitch decision that wasn't very thought out, or will be an instinctive decision that will cause a turnover, and you have defenders on the lines that can do that. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game because I think Tennessee, if Tajay Sharp, Kendall Wright, and Delaney Walker, or they might run the ball down their throat like Indy tried to throw it down. So I think it can be a shootout type of game. But I'm going to take Detroit here straight up just because I believe they have more talent. And I trust them more so than Tennessee, who may be able to run and may be able to put up points. But the biggest difference between Mariota will have a couple turnovers that will be the difference in the game. So that's why I'm taking Detroit straight up, and I'm taking Tennessee's points because I don't believe this game will be a low-scoring one. This will be a shootout. The next game, Baltimore and Cleveland. I do want to say for my home team, a lot of credit for a great game all around for Baltimore. The first opening day win since 2012. We sacked Tyrod Taylor twice, and it was the lowest amount of points on defense we had given up since 2011 for opening weekend, when we beat Pittsburgh 35-7 in Baltimore. And just looking at Cleveland, they had a couple good moments, but then it was all the point when Cameron Irving, their rookie center, snapped the ball over RG3's head. That caused a safety, and then afterward, the Eagles score the touchdown on the next drive. And kudos to Carson Wentz, by the way. I was completely wrong about that Eagles-Browns game. Carson Wentz showed a lot for me, and he got an A grade for his performance. 22 of 37, I believe. 273 yards and 2 touchdowns without an interception. Great job. You really couldn't ask for a better debut. He gets an A from me. But going back to this game with the Ravens and Browns, and I just heard that RG3 suffered, and again, he took that shot at the end of the fourth quarter that bruised his shoulder, and that shoulder injury is pretty significant now that he is now on the IR, and so that means Josh McCown will most likely start this next game against the Ravens in Week 2. We want redemption for what happened last year with Josh McCown when he came into Baltimore, and he won 30-27, and that was the game where Gary Barnidge had that incredible catch. That kind of elevated Gary Barnidge up to where he is now as a solid tight end. And just looking at this game now of RG3 being out, knowing that Josh McCown's back there, again, it helps because Josh McCown doesn't have nearly as much mobility as Robert does. And I think the Browns' offensive line showed that it couldn't really be as, losing Alex Mack and a couple other guys, it really doesn't help. They lost Donald Stevenson. They do have Joe Thomas still, who's still the best left tackle, and I feel bad for him. But if Philadelphia can get 3 sacks and 8 hits, I can say that I think our defense, with the way we played, we can get just as many hits, maybe a few more, and maybe a couple more sacks against this Browns team that's essentially now just going along the season, just trying to win any game. I don't think it's going to be a competitive game now with that information, and I just have confidence in Baltimore going, look, this is a new year. We beat a Bills team that, was more highly touted, had more motivation, and I think this Browns team, this is just an opportunity to kick a team while it's down. And I just think, again, in every aspect of the game, maybe besides offensive line, we have better talent, and we have better personnel to win this game than Cleveland does. So that's why I'm going to take Baltimore to beat Cleveland both ways. Dallas and Washington. This game for me, I have to tell you, when going into yesterday, I thought Dak Prescott would have had the better game, and compared to Carson Wentz, and I was dead wrong. And in all honesty, I know I saw a Cowboy fan comment on my video, for I appreciate the new viewer, and I appreciate if that, and thanks for watching. But I have to tell you, my grade for Dak Prescott's debut performance was a C to C+. For me, it was the aspect of he went 25 of 45 for 227 yards, no TDs, no INTs. He had 4 field goal drives and a touchdown. And Dan Bailey had to kick a 56 and a 54-yarder for 2 of those field goals. If you don't have the most accurate kicker in NFL history, that's a fact, and kick those 2 long field goals, you will put up a grand total of 13 points on offense. And just to me, Dak dinked and dunked. I know maybe that's what the Giants allowed them to do, but when you have Dez Bryant only go for 1 reception for 8 yards, that's not really good. But Dez Bryant really didn't have that many opportunities to catch the ball either. He had the 1 bomb, that he caught that he ended up catching out of bounds, but that was it. You try to give Dez some more opportunities, but Dak really didn't do that. He threw it a lot to Cole and Terrence, who Terrence Williams ended up costing the game by going out of bounds. But I look at Dak Prescott and said he played average. He moved the ball. He was better than he was better than every other Cowboy backup last year, but he didn't really do anything impressive. So again, to me, that's a C+ grade. And Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz clearly outplayed Dak Prescott. I know competition was different, and I will give you that, and you can say, well, he was playing the Browns defense. But again, Dak Prescott had an entire preseason. We saw what he could do, and he looked really good. Carson Wentz was basically on the shelf, and for him to go out there and perform like he did, I was more impressed with that than seeing Dak behind the offensive line and with the talent around him, put up that, average to a little above average performance against the Cowboys. But looking at Dallas and Washington, I kind of just, when I look at this game, Washington has a lot of motivation. Dallas has gone into Washington the last 3 years and beaten them, which is not something they like. And also, I think it's an aspect of where he's going to be playing just as equally good as secondary, not maybe nearly as good as front seven, because the Redskins don't have that many difference makers besides Kerrigan that are kind of that big impact player. But they are playing a better offensive line, or they're playing a good offensive line in the Redskins, who were coached by the former Cowboy, Bill Callahan. And I just think, again, where Dak Prescott, against this defense, I could see him driving down to about the 30-yard line, 25-yard line, and then the offense stops. Kirk Cousins, I can see against the Cowboys defense, with Garcon, with Josh Dotson if he can play, with Crowder, with Jackson, being able to stretch the field more and have bigger impact plays that can give the Cowboys, or that can give the Redskins this victory. With Dan Bailey and how effective he is, if the Cowboys can get a stop or two or get a turnover, the Cowboys did force 2 turnovers, which is already on a much better pace than they were last year when they forced a NFL low 11. So if they can cause a couple turnovers and Dak can get them in the field goal range and get more field goals, that will help. And I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Bailey can get game-winning field goal. But at the end of the day, what I saw out of Dak was he can drive you down to get field goals against solid defenses. With Washington, I've seen Kirk Cousins, and I will think he will score a touchdown tonight. He can drive the ball, and he can move the ball further down the field and deeper down the field than Prescott, and that will be the difference in the game. So, again, that's why I like Dallas plus 3.5, because I think it's a close game, and I think Washington may have to kick a field goal or get a game-winning touchdown to get it. But I will take Washington straight up. The next one, Saints and Giants. This game last year, this was the Big 12 game of the NFL season last year. New Orleans and New York, last year that game's final, I believe, was 52-49, and Drew Brees tied the NFL record for 7 passing touchdowns in a single game. And New Orleans, yesterday, they were having a fireworks show in the Dome. New Orleans set a new franchise-long touchdown reception record with 98 yards. But their defense, like in most previous years, it still hasn't changed. They gave up 30-plus points again for the 3rd straight year in a row in their opening game. And when I look at the Giants, knowing what that offense is, when you have Eli Manning, when you have Jennings and Vereen, you have Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard, Larry Donnell, he made a sighting with a touchdown reception in the game against the Cowboys. And also kudos to the Giants. That was the first time they beat Dallas on opening weekend in Dallas. When you're playing a team that has that much firepower, and you're a defense like with the Raiders yesterday, Oakland averaged 12.8 yards per play in the 4th quarter. If you have an offense like New York does with that much talent, even if New Orleans, let's say Drew Brees, who's better than Dak Prescott, can drive the ball and do the same thing, I'm just going to expect the same thing I did without the Raiders than I did the Giants. That the Saints could score 25, 28 points. They're going to have to, maybe even 30. The Giants can score 35 with the offense they have. And I know last time the Saints went to New York, it didn't really turn out that well in the end. But I do have confidence in this Giant team that they should be able to win again in a very tough game. And I'm going to take the Saints here plus 4.5 because I do, Drew Brees and Eli Manning, they know these two defenses. Even though the New York defense has a lot more talent, Drew Brees can carve up any defense. It really doesn't matter if you're first or 32nd. Drew Brees at any moment can carve up a defense. And I think with the talent he has and with what he showed, he can do that against this Giants defense, which showed that they bend a lot. And I think with New Orleans, Drew Brees will make them break a little bit more than Dak did, which will make the shootout kind of game possible, I'm expecting. But I'm going to take the Giants here just because they have the better defense. and they had the better offense to win a shootout. So that's making the Giants beat the Saints. San Francisco and Carolina, this was talent. There really wasn't a spread, and honestly, in every aspect of the game, quarterback, running back, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, coaching, they were just better. Even though San Francisco, against Cam Newton, they beat, he hasn't beaten them in Carolina. This Carolina team just has way too much talent to not say that San Francisco should win. And again, I couldn't find a spread, so I'm going to take Carolina both ways. And that helps me out because I can just take Carolina. So there's that game. Miami and New England, I have to give New England a lot of credit for the performance they had against Arizona. Nobody expected it. New England did not have Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Josh Klein, Brian Stork, Nate Solder, Sebastian Vollmer, Dion Lewis, Rob Ninkovich. There's 8 top guys right there, or 8 guys that were starting last year, or, that were contributors that weren't there. And they played an Arizona team that had everybody. Chandler Jones was there. Calais Campbell, Carson Palmer, David Johnson, the Arizona offensive line. Even though Evan Mathis went down with an injury, best of luck to him with his health. Mathis, Valdir, Upati, Larry Fitzgerald, John Brown, Jerron Brown, Jermaine Gresham. This was a fully loaded Cardinal team. And the fact that the Patriots were able to win that game, even though it came down to a rookie long snapper botching the snap horribly to win, that's still a testament win to Bill Belichick and his ability to coach his butt off and win games like that. And it shows all the people that are not the biggest Bill Belichick fans that this guy is one of, if not the greatest coach in NFL history, just because of what he can do with all the talent around him, or whatever talent's around. If he puts them in the system where they know their role, you can win about 95% of the time with Belichick. And kudos to Jimmy G, too. I'll give Jimmy Garoppolo, a B+ grade. Sensational performance for the most part. The only reason I'm not giving him an A is the 2 fumbles. He's got to hold on to the ball, and I'm a big person with turnovers, that if you turn the ball over as a quarterback, you don't really get an A from me. So that's where Carson Wentz gets an A, and Jimmy doesn't. But Jimmy still gets a very high B+, about an 89, 89.9 for me, just because of how those 2 fumbles were. But this New England game was extremely easy because Miami cannot play New England at home. Miami is 0-4 under Tannehill all-time in New England, and they've been outscored 132-37 in those 4 games. But amazingly, when the Patriots go to Miami, Tannehill's 3-1, and he's won the last 3 games in Miami. And Tannehill's stats, they really don't show, they look okay for first half, but in the second half you realize he's not very good. Tannehill, for his 4 games in New England, he completes about 59.6% of his passes, 1,073 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So with that large of a point margin, knowing that the Patriots our confidence is at an all-time high right now, with how big a win they just got against their toughest opponent, you could argue, the entire year, with their backup quarterback and their backup team, or backup half of a team, they should be able to go to a Miami game that, even though Miami put up a valiant effort against the Seahawks, they could not get the job done, and their defense, I do think that, Miami, New England's defense won't provide that much of a challenge, or won't provide that much of a drubbing defensively, but I do think that Miami, unless they do the screens or the quick passes like they did against Seattle, New England doesn't nearly blitz as much, so they're going to have to be disciplined, and I think with Miami's offensive line not having Mike Pouncey, it'll be a long day for the Dolphins fans, who will now go to 0-5 against the Patriots in New England. And that's why I feel confident about the 4.5-point spread. The next game, Kansas City and Houston. These were 2 teams that put up really solid performances in 2 completely different ways. Kansas City completed the largest comeback in franchise history, 21 points. Alex Smith ended up having 363 yards of offense. Very impressive. What a way to come back. No Jamal Charles, no Justin Houston. I don't think Tamba played well, and even Macklin went down at the end there during overtime. Just an incredible amount of grit and heart shown by the Kansas City Chiefs. Where with the Houston Texans, they pretty much asserted their dominance. Brock Osweiler had a solid game. 22 of 35, 62.61% completion percentage, 231 yards, 2 TDs, and a pick. And I also have to give Lamar Miller credit. He is right now the only running back out of the entire league, out of all the games, that ran for 100 yards. He ran for 106 yards against the Bears. Pretty impressive, especially with the Bears and their new man defense. To me, when I look at this game, I'm going to go with Kansas City because they have the edge in terms of experience and talent. And you could argue with Brock and the Texans, even though, again, the Texans had a field day against the Bears' offensive line. Jay Cutler got sacked 5 times and hit an additional 8 times, so that's 13 QB hits and 5 sacks. I think that they can definitely provide that much pressure on the Charger or on the Chief offensive line, because if you saw the first half of the Chief-Charger game, it was not pretty for Alex Smith. But I think Kansas City, they provide more of a challenge in the secondary end, which is going to provide Brock Osweiler more of a struggle to get balls down the field and to make those kind of chunk plays they need to win. Houston has all the motivation because of last year how Kansas City dominated both games. They shut out the Texans in the wildcard game, and then in the first week, remember Brian Hoyer throws an interception to Marcus Peters to start his Houston Texan career. This one to me is a toss-up, but I think of a 2-point spread. I think Kansas City can get a field goal to win it, and I just trust KC's makeup and consistency, and knowing that they've played this Houston team, with all the different quarterbacks. Are they playing probably the best quarterback they've had to play? Sure, in Brock. But Brock hasn't played at Kansas City. Brock has not played this Chief team, with the expectation of, now you have to be the guy to win this game. I think it'll be, a great game. These two teams are, more fully ramped. I do hope Jamal Charles can come back this week and play. I don't think he will, but that would be great for just help-wise. But I'm going to take Kansas City here because I just feel that in this game, with two competitive teams, one's confidence at all-time high, knowing that they're going into a place where they've won before last 3 times. I just think Kansas City has more of a better makeup to win this kind of game than Houston does, knowing that Chicago and Kansas City are two completely different teams. So that's something in Kansas City to beat Houston. The Seahawks and the Rams, I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. It's really tough because Russell Wilson, from what I just heard, or from what I heard this morning, has suffered a significant ankle injury that could cause him to miss this game. He's trying to blow it off on Twitter by saying, well, it's hard work pays off, and we'll see him in LA. And I'm going to take Seattle either way, even if Trevon Boykin starts, because I see this game as a Minnesota-Tennessee game for Seattle in the sense of Trevon Boykin has enough talent around him, especially on defense, and with Michael and Rawls. He doesn't have AP, but again, AP really didn't have that great of a game yesterday, that if Trevon Boykin does not make that many mistakes, the Seahawks should be able to win this game. Even though the LA Rams have had a pretty consistent history over the last few years of being able to be the one team to give Seattle fits. Because you look at the last 4 years. Okay, here's kind of an amazing thing for Seattle. St. Louis, over the last 4 years, 4 different starting quarterbacks have beaten the Seattle Seahawks under Russell Wilson. Sam Bradford, Austin Davis, Nick Foles, and Case Keenum. Also, Seattle, over the last 4 years, have lost 3 of 4 in St. Louis. And to me, though, this LA Rams team, their defense is not nearly the same. No Rodney McLeod, or McLeod, no matter which way you say it. No Rodney McLeod. No James Laurinaitis. No Chris Long. No Nick Fairley. No Janoris Jenkins. There's too much defensive talent, and the defensive talent they have remaining, guys like Michael Brockers, Alec Ogletree, Dominique Easley, they let go of Akeem Ayers, aren't nearly as good, and they're kind of in just, kind of average guys at best or busts, like Michael Brockers is. And And I just think, again, with Seattle, knowing what they have in front of them, this is a game that, even with Trevon Boykin, with how the defense played, I think Case Keenum's going to have too much of a rough time, and I think that Seattle can squeak by again with another victory over a hard-fought LA Ram team that always gives them a run. So that's why I'm going to take Seattle to beat LA, but I am taking LA's points because all these games always seem to come down to a field goal or less. So there's that. The next game, Tampa and Arizona. Tampa Bay, Jameis Winston, what a great performance to start his second year. 4 touchdown passes. Second time in his career he's thrown for over 4 touchdown passes. The other time was against Philadelphia back in Week 10 last year. I look at this game, and I think for Arizona there's a lot riding on this. Their pride was hurt, and their fans were hurt by that performance because there was no way they should have lost that game. And with that, I think this was the perfect kick in the butt for Bruce Arians to tell his team, look, we are the Arizona Cardinals. This team is a lot of guys that have been on this, a lot of older guys that really don't maybe have that much time left. This is our year to make a statement, and we need to make a statement against a Tampa team that's coming in with more positive momentum, that this is a young team that, has young stars like Jameis and Gerald and Levante and Mike saying, we are the Arizona Cardinals. We don't lose back-to-back home games. Bruce Arians has never lost a back-to-back home games in his tenure as Cardinals head coach, and the Cardinals actually, since 2007, have not lost their first 2 home games back-to-back. I think Arizona, they have that motivation, they have that fire to light it into Tampa, but I think Tampa Bay knows, hey, this is maybe the best time to go after Arizona when they're down. Tampa Bay could say, hey, you don't need to have Bill Belichick, coaching and all these great, Patriot things. You can have me, Dirk Cutter, a first-time head coach, with the talent that we have, with the Mike Evans, Vincent Jacksons, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Cameron Brates, Doug Martins, and our defense to make an impact and win a game in your place that was basically unstoppable for the last few years. I think it should be a great game. It's going to be a high-scoring affair with these two, offenses on the field. But I'm going to take Arizona here because they have all the motivation, and an angry Arizona team is not a team that I would not want to face. But I will take Tampa Bay plus 6 because I do believe this will come down to either a 35-31 game or a 38-35 game. So that's what I'm taking Arizona to beat Tampa Bay, but I'm taking Tampa Bay plus 7. Jacksonville and San Diego. Fun little fact here, San Diego has blown 3 21-point leads 3 times over the last 5 seasons. Yesterday against Kansas City in 2013, they had a 24-3 lead over the Houston Texans in Week 1 of the 2013 season. And in 2012, in Week 6, they were up 24-0 on the Denver Broncos. And they ended up losing that game, 35-24. So San Diego, amazingly, this is not the first time they've won a 21-point lead, or even the second time they've done it. This is about the third. And San Diego, I do have to give Melvin Gordon credit. He had his first 2 rushing touchdowns of his career. All last year, he had none. So, and he seemed like he was in a better state. San Diego defense really did a decent job through the first half of making a lot of big plays, getting sacks, getting stops. But then the biggest loss and the biggest stop was Keenan Allen, who went down with a torn ACL. He's now out for the year, and I kind of expected that something like this could happen. It stinks. But now Keenan Allen is now going to miss 25. Let me see here. I have the thing right here. Keenan Allen, over the last 3 years, is now going to miss 25 of the 48 games you could possibly play. That's 52% of the games he is going to miss. And that's why I did not like him signing that 4-year, $46 million extension. Not because he's not talented enough to do it, but if you look at his entire career, college and pro, he now has a PCL sprain that knocked him down in the draft. You have a lacerated kidney, and now you have a torn ACL. This is just a guy that just somehow or some way seems to get hurt consistent enough that you cannot trust him a full 16 games, and you need somebody else that can be a great counterpart. And again, now Travis Benjamin's on his own, and now Antonio Gates and Benjamin are going to be the 2 guys that everybody focuses on, and nobody else cares about everybody else. And even though, again, Phillip Rivers, he's done this, he did this last year, and he can still throw the ball around, I just don't think with Jacksonville's defense, or Jacksonville's team, they just have more talent. I like Hearns and Robinson. compared to Travis Benjamin and Inman or Alexander, who I think went down himself with an injury. I like the Jacksonville defense. They have more talented pieces. They'll be able to run the ball just as well as I think the Chargers can. Even though Chris Ivory's still in the hospital, I wish him a quick recovery. But that'll be interesting to watch, see how long Ivory's out. And also, Jacksonville has this motivation. Last year, 2 teams went into Jacksonville on 6-game losing streaks, and Jacksonville was the team that got them off the schneid. One was the Atlanta Falcons, the other one was the San Diego Chargers. So Jacksonville knows what kind of motivation they have in beating the San Diego team that's kind of down on their luck. And I almost kind of feel like with that kind of loss, it's going to be really hard for a Jacksonville team who put up a brilliant fight against Green Bay, just coming, about 14 yards short. They'll be motivated to go on a San Diego team that's down on their luck, saying that we're going in the right direction, you're going in the wrong. It's going to be a great game, and I guess I wouldn't be surprised San Diego won because that's just kind of how Gus Bradley is, and I guess Phillip Rivers has enough talent that he can beat this team. But I'm going to take Jacksonville just because I like their youth, and I like their motivation of, hey, we're tired of losing these kind of games. Let's prove we can win one, and let's take it on a San Diego team that's really down on their luck. So that's what I'm taking, Jacksonville to beat San Diego. Oakland over Atlanta. I just think Oakland, they're back. Shout out to the football guru, John Glover. His Raiders are back. This was a statement victory. First time in 5 years the Raiders won on opening weekend. The defense, I wasn't really impressed with. Over 500 yards of offense, 400 yards through the air, 14 penalties, especially the one with Crabtree where he did the throat slashing. That's Raider-like, and I know Raider fans, that's cool to see, but you just can't do that because it's just penalties. Those are penalties that you don't need. And I tend to just look at Atlanta and say they're a team kind of like the Buffaloes or the San Diegos or the Jets. And most of the time, like if you play a good team, Atlanta will give you a fight. Julio Jones and Matt Ryan and Sanu and the defense, they can make some plays and they can be effective. But when the chips are down, Atlanta can't step up, either offensively or defensively. I can see the Raiders, making a big stop, or the Raiders scoring, a game-winning field goal or touchdown to win this game. And just knowing what Oakland wants to do at home, knowing what's that home atmosphere in the black hole is going to be like, I feel like that their defense is going to play a lot better and put a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan, which will cause him to make mistakes. And the Oakland running game, or the Oakland run defense, will be able to stop the duo of Coleman and Freeman to just about the same kind of numbers, maybe a little bit better, 30, 40 yards, to make them not as big a difference in this game. I think, again, for Oakland, this is just another step in the right direction. You guys can go 2-0 and beat 2 NFC South teams with high-powered offenses. Even if you win them, it's just the right step. And I think with Atlanta and Oakland has, a very positive light of saying we can make the playoffs. Atlanta at this point is kind of at a point of, well, we can be competitive, but we're going to lose more often than we win, which kind of dampers their spirits. So that's why I'm taking Oakland to beat Atlanta. Indianapolis and Denver. I'm taking Denver here just because the Colts defense couldn't stop anything. Third time in 5 years they're going up over 30 points in the opening game. I really wasn't impressed. And if you have guys like Demarius and Emmanuel, even though Demarius Thomas is having an MRI on his shoulder today, so that'll be interesting to watch, and hopefully he can play. I think that, I think that the Broncos should be able to have the same kind of opportunities that the Lions offense did. And also I think Denver's defense is much more talented overall compared to Detroit's. I think they have a better front seven, they have a better secondary, and I think that will, provide Andrew Luck a much tougher challenge. I took the points of Indianapolis just because I saw Andrew Luck in what a almost heroic, another signature moment that could have been with his comeback. They were down 21-3 at one point, to be from that point to 35-34, and then to take To lose 39-30, 39-35, that's, extremely tough. But I have to give Detroit their credit for, being able to be the last gun standing. And I think, again, where I'll give Andrew Luck that credit. I think, against Denver, he's 3-1 all time, so he knows how to play this Denver defense. But I think either he will make a mistake or the Denver offense, with how bad the Colts secondary is, how many corners they've lost, will give up one more score, one more possession, and one more point to get the victory. I think Indianapolis, I have enough credit for Luck saying that he'll put up a fight, but I think that at the end of the day, Denver will be able to score the final point or make one final stop in this game. So that's what I'm thinking. Denver to beat Indianapolis. Green Bay and Minnesota. This was fairly easy because Minnesota couldn't really do anything on offense except kick field goals. Blair Walsh, in fact, actually missed 2, and he missed an extra point. And I think it's time to cut Blair Walsh and get Robbie Gould. Vikings fans, Robbie Gould's out there. Get Robbie Gould and cut Blair Walsh. Even though I know he signed a 4-year deal, it's a kicker. It's not really that much money to eat. When I look at Green Bay, they had a really solid game. They got they got a big time stop. And Green Bay's won the last 3 games in Minnesota. And when you look at the Vikings, it's kind of an awkward thing where Adrian Peterson usually tends to have a field day against the Packers. In every game he's played against them, he averages about 110 yards on 20 carries. Yesterday, he had 19 carries for 31 yards. I think, again, he knows the Packers defense, and the Packers defense, I guess, doesn't nearly look as good as the Titans. But it almost seemed like, again, where the Packers defense was much better on the ground than it was through the air. And that's kind of the exact opposite of how the Vikings want to play. They'd rather run it down your throat than throw it through the air. With these two teams, with Hill or Bradford, I think Bradford will give the Vikings a better shot. But I don't think it's enough to say that the Packers can kick a game-winning field goal to cover the 2.5-point spread. And I just think at the end of the day, Green Bay has a higher ceiling of talent and more talent around them in certain positions. And also the fact that they don't have Sam Bradford or Sean Hill starting for them to win this game. And then finally, Philadelphia and Chicago. Carson Wentz, the first QB to start as a rookie for the Eagles since 1939. That was according to Elias. And just looking at what the Bears couldn't do in the second half, they couldn't score. Cutler was sacked 5 times, hit 13 times. Philadelphia sacked RG 3 times and hit him 8 times. So with that combination, I think Philadelphia, they have the better running game. They have the better offensive line. They don't have the better receivers, but they have the better overall defense, and where I just trust that Carson Wentz has shown that he can be a leader. Jay Cutler, when you see him throw an interception, or when he threw an interception or couldn't get a pass off, he just tends to go back and sit down and not do anything. And I just think, again, I might be a prisoner of the moment, and Carson Wentz against this Bear defense may look completely different. I just think with the Eagles defense, with what they have, and the Eagles offense, with what they have with Carson Wentz, and if he can continue to make throws and make runs and extend plays and be a playmaker like he was last week, I think they have enough talent, enough confidence to win this game against the Bears team that can be competitive, but at the end of the day, more times than not, Cutler will make a mistake, or they won't be able to get a runoff, or their defense will give up something for them to win the game for the Eagles. So that's why I'm going to Philadelphia +3. In fact, I'm a little surprised that Philadelphia is actually the underdog. I thought Philadelphia would be about a 2-point favorite. So those are my picks for this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Shout out to the NFL YouTube prognosticators. Guys like Mason Cole, Half Moon's Picks, Terrell Harmon, the Stuart Madison, The Electric Show, Robert's Sports Show, Geo Knows, Billy B. All those guys. Watch their picks. They're all great. And that's it. So again, let me guys know what you think about my Monday videos. If you guys like them, if you guys like my thoughts on each game. And I will update the rest every Tuesday or Wednesday. I will put the extra games from the previous Monday into my Against the Spread and Over-Under section in the description. So that's it. So best of luck to all the players. Best of luck to all the teams. Best of luck to all the coaches. Best of luck to all fantasy players. I believe I'm going to lose my 2 fantasy games in my 2 leagues that I'm in, which is not good. And best of luck to all fellow prognosticators. And may we all have great weeks. So until next time, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic, signing off until next week. Until then, so long.